Hello everybody, welcome back to Aero League Racing Tier 2. Today we're going to be doing a race at Monza. We'll be getting started soon. I apologize for the background noise that you guys might have heard of for a few seconds. Just wanted to make sure that the audio was working. But yes, just a few more seconds and we will get started shortly. Right, well, once again, hello everyone, my name is Aman, and today you guys are going to be tuning in to Tier 2 Racing here at Monza, 27 laps. But surprisingly, I am not here alone. I am joined here by a panel, or well, an expert in Formula 1 as well, in the form of Bloodwave. How are you, Bloodwave? Welcome to the stream.
Hey, thanks for having me, Aman. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. So, for those of you who don't know, Bloodwave is my brother, and today we will be dual comming for Tier 2 today. So, Blood, obviously coming here to Monza, you know, a track that is very, very highly dependent on your top speed. Mm-hmm. What are the more likely setups that you think we're going to be looking at here today?
Judging from past experience, definitely from some of the older races that we've had at Monza, including Tier 1 and I believe it was Tier 3 on Thursday, many people have seemed to be running extremely low setups. 0-0 wings, I heard that there were a few drivers who were running, which is a bit outrageous when you hear about it, but yeah, it's definitely something that they take into consideration. But as for me, I believe that you need a little bit more rear wing and just a tad more front wing on your car to help keep it stable through some of the high-speed corners.
That would make sense. Yes. Well, as we are about to get started here, and more and more people are joining, I will quickly run us all through the standings so far. So, leading the championship is King David with 91 points, followed by Jacko Lacko in P2 of the championship with 81. LX and Jack in third place with 67 points. Robin with 60. Smatters in P5, followed by Oswaldo, Pyro, Caesar, Easy Level Bot, and Rala Rula. Then that rounds off your top 10. So obviously a bit more than midway through the season so far. We still have a bit way to go. However, things are shaping up pretty nicely. P1 and P2 in the championship only separated by 10 points. All to play for here, as I'm pretty sure Jack will be looking forward to a big incident for King David, and King David would be hoping the same vice versa for Jack. Now, Blood, obviously coming to a track like this with such a close championship battle, how do these drivers deal with these nerves going to this race, making sure they don't make any costly mistakes, crashing into each other or spinning out? And where do you think we will be most likely seeing incidents during this race?
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely with the championship as close as this, sometimes nerves do run high, especially since they're separated with such few points between them. The championship battle still very much is on. So yeah, dealing with nerves, there's no solution other than to just tough it out, kind of just go for it, send it, leave nothing else off track, you know, like just do all your talking on track, make sure that you're not going to bed thinking that, oh man, I could have sent that move, I could have done that. You're just supposed to go for it, right? And as for where we'll see the most collisions, probably I feel like people are going to get a little brave into the Ascari chicane, try and send moves where moves should not be sent, simply put. We see a lot of that in this tier. This is Tier 2 after all. It's pretty notorious for this kind of stuff, so yeah.
Absolutely. Tier 2 obviously does not have the greatest of track records. However, we are having a fantastic season so far. A ton of great racing, a ton of great battles, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot more of that here today. So now, 17 minutes on the clock as we begin the qualifying session here at Monza. Only 15 drivers racing today, 5 people missing out. But I don't think that should make too much of a difference as we are still in store for quite an exciting race. I believe there's not many. Do you have any idea how many laps there are? 26?
27 here at Monza.
27 laps. And what strategy do you feel like most drivers will be favorably looking upon for this race?
I think the safest option is to definitely start on the mediums. However, you're not always completely sure if there's going to be an early safety car or not. So maybe the soft scramble might pay off, but if there is not an early safety car, then you're kind of left for stranded, having to go to the hards for the rest of the race.
Of course, and here we are with EXE Robin as he begins his out lap first on the track, so we will be sitting on board with him through his first flying lap. Now, Blood, you've obviously raced here at Monza as well, and you did a fantastic job bagging in a podium as well here. So, first of all, big congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
But from your experience racing here, what is the biggest challenge a driver can face while racing around this track? Is it the constant slipstream? Is it the DRS trains that people face? Or is it more of a strategy-based conflict? What do you think is the biggest problem that drivers here would be facing?
Well, following at this track is not very hard. Sometimes it does get a bit annoying when you're stuck in the back or like in the middle of a DRS train. Since the top speeds are so high, DRS doesn't really do much at this track. But other than that, yeah, I guess it would just be the strategy, safety cars, all that shit that we have to deal with. Trying to figure out when to pit, when to come out first. Obviously making the line, which I did not do in qualifying.
Yes,
Missed the line, didn't set a lap. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that goes into racing at this track.
Right, well, as we sit on board with Robin as he crosses the Parabolica and begins his flying lap, we will be sitting across with him here for the first actual time lap here at Monza. Coming down the long pit straight as he comes in towards the famous chicane, brakes heavy on the brakes. Fast right-hander followed by an immediate left-hander. It looks like he had a good exit into that corner, and now he's coming across the flat right-hander as well. Ferrari tucked in behind. Obviously, a slipstream here would be ideal. However, it's not impossible to still get on pole position here without a slipstream.
Yeah, of course, definitely. The top speed's running so high, as you can see, he runs over the curbs. That'll have cost him a couple tenths at best. But keeps it neat and tidy going into Lesmo 1. Barely uses any of that outside curb, which is a bit of a risky strategy because you need to get on those curbs to extract the most for the exit. And he gets a good exit here, DRS wide open as he heads down into Ascari. 8th gear, you can see 345, 6 kph into the fast left-hander now. In 5th gear, takes it almost flat. And now up into 6th, that looked like a good and tidy Ascari chicane from him.
Right, and as we come across the second straight at Monza and entering towards the Parabolica, let's see what time Robin can set here. Hopefully, he's been fantastic throughout the rest of the season. Let's see what his open banking lap will be, sticking towards the right-hand side to minimize the time as he crosses the line and sets a 1:20.6. A fantastic time from that driver. Now we sit on board with Font as he spins out, and it maybe has potential wing damage. Probably lost it there, did not have enough rear end as he spins right back onto the track. Robin still in pole position as he gets overtaken by Jack and Smatters.
Wow.
Smatters being the first driver entering the 119s, followed by Ella, who's also set a 120.1. And as we saw, Jacko set a decent time of a 120.7, but then immediately getting swallowed up. And Smatters almost a second faster than Jacko as well on his first run. So obviously, we need slipstream here, and these drivers in the back obviously probably were running a bit of slipstream. So for a driver like Jacko, would it be best advised for him and Pyro to maybe go for team orders here, or do you still believe that it's every man for himself? Just put your hands in the air and best of luck to the best driver.
Yeah, well, you see, the slipstream on the main straight is worth about, I'd say, 3 or 4 tenths, give or take. So 3 or 4 tenths, that puts him in a good position, but that's still not going to be enough towards the end of qualifying. Smatters, though, with a 1:19.9, that is a rapid lap time as a banker. If nothing else, that really shows that he's been putting in his practice, putting in the hours into this track.
And as we come across the bank turn over here, Oswaldo coming towards the line is not going to be setting any of the sectors purple. However, he does set a 1:23.8, so nothing competitive from him. And I believe that would be the first time lap from every other driver. However, there are 4 drivers who currently have not really set a lap, one of which is Font, who unfortunately did spin out and possibly damaged his front wing during that turn. However, he's back out again to give it another go. So as we were discussing earlier with these drivers, and you were saying how that there's this big conflict of the DRS train. If you were stuck in the middle of this DRS train, do you think it would be maybe appropriate to maybe go for an undercut here, an overcut? What do you think would be the appropriate time for pitting? if you were stuck in a DRS train.
So you see, tire wear on this specific track, the thing that I've learned is that even though your numbers might be high, you might be running 70, 80 even percent, well into the punctured territory, you can still set decent lap times because there's such less corners here that you can just like kind of make that time back up on the straights, provided that you're saving your ERS. So going for an undercut doesn't seem very productive to me. If anything, you'll get stuck in traffic or something, have trouble with overtaking, or you know what, maybe even get stuck in another DRS train of your own, followed by a lot of people who are undercutting. So me personally, I would like to think that this is more of an overcut track, where if you stay out for a longer time, just keep banging in those lap times, you can go to the softs or maybe the mediums towards the end and have a tire advantage over everybody else.
Alright, well thank you for the insight as we now sit on board with Font, as he unfortunately did crash out on his first flying lap. We'll sit on board with him, DRS wide open, heavy on the brakes, going into the first chicane, rides a bit over the curb there, not too sure if he's going to lose too much time there, but he seemed like he had a good exit. He should be sticking towards the right-hand side now to minimize the amount of distance he needs to cover towards the second chicane. Font obviously coming through in Sector 1, sets a 26.4, which is a purple Sector 1. Font seems to be absolutely lighting up the track right now. Gets a good Sector 2, gets a good chicane number 2 as he comes across the line, but as he approaches the second DRS zone over here. Not many drivers out on the track, so Font has nothing to worry about. Second DRS zone wide open as he approaches the Ascari chicane. Let's see how Font can take this, carrying at a speed of, I can't exactly see how much, but it doesn't really matter. Sets a 53 point something in the Sector 2. Oh, and he spins out once again, and once again Font manages to lose the car. It just does not seem like it's his time to be performing.
And he impedes the Aston Martin while he's at it.
Yeah, I wonder if the Aston Martin suffered because of it. He's still on a flying lap, approaching the banked corner at the end. Let's see what the Aston Martin of httpPyro can set. Seems like he had a good final corner out of there, sticks towards the right-hand side, and he sets a 120.8, setting him into P8. So that was also a very, very decent lap from him. Font does not seem to be having any luck today.
Yeah, he's definitely not enjoying himself out there. Yeah, he spun, I think, twice. Lucky not to total his car there. Actually, yeah, that kind of crash, we've had it a lot. It could end up being very disastrous. So yeah, he's blessed to not have that happen to him.
Absolutely, as Alex and Jack also comes across the line, but sets a 1 minute 20.6, keeping him in P4. And as we see that the both Alfa Romeo seem to be going out in unison, maybe potentially trying to give one and the other a slipstream, as Jack Olaco seems to be leading ahead of Pyro. So this is what I meant by team orders over here. Team orders around here are so crucial because of the slipstream. Obviously, you know, you would want these two type of teammates to be working together to maybe push themselves both up onto the grid.
Yeah, no, it's definitely great to see because that slipstream's so crucial. It's the crucial 3 or 4 tenths that can mean the difference between pole position or P2 or P3. So yeah, it's really nice to see that these guys are working together, trying to maximize their grid positions.
Absolutely, as Jack Olaco goes across Sector 1, but doesn't set any purple times. We'll see about that from Pyro as well. So that's meanwhile, so far, big respect to Smatters for sitting still there with a 119.9 undisturbed, currently still 2 tenths faster than P2. However, we will see if Jack Olaco and Pyro can change according to that, as I'll ride aboard with Pyro just to get an idea. Maybe there's some improvement from his end as he comes across Sector 2. No purple sectors from him. However, he is 3 tenths faster this time. Maybe not good enough to get in pole position, but maybe he has a lot of time to make up in specific corners. We shall see.
Still getting the slipstream behind his teammate all the way down to the Parabolica.
I wonder if he's going to end up giving Jack a slipstream as well.
Would be nice to see. But yeah, they would need a lot of coordination for that to try not to impede each other, especially with spins and whatnot.
Absolutely, as Jack Olaco goes P5 and Pyro comes across the line and goes P6 right behind his teammate. So despite getting the slipstream, he is still behind Jack Olaco. So both the Alfa Romeos are now in P5 and P6 as we ride on board with Smatters, who is 8 seconds slower than his current time, and he comes in the box. Ella, meanwhile, on the other hand, is currently setting his second lap of the track, as we see how he's going to go across.
I think he's on a cooldown lap or something.
Oh, you believe so?
Yeah, his rear lights are flashing. He's not using DRS on this.
Then yeah, that would do it. However, Ella has entered the 119s as well, only 500s behind Smatters as well so far. So let's find someone else to sit on board with, as we can, as Jack also seems to be on a slow out lap. What about Rolla? Rolla coming across the line is not improving, also goes into the pit. So I believe nobody's really setting a fast lap at the moment. Everyone seems to be kind of struggling, as Nacho is way behind schedule on that lap.
Somebody's at a moment off of Ascari. It's a Ferrari.
It's a Ferrari, and I believe that is the Ferrari of Oswaldo. I don't know if he has front damage or not.
I think he was maybe just letting somebody by.
Yeah, could possibly be that as well. I believe it's CRL Nacho who is already on a very slow lap, unfortunately. And I believe Oswaldo is going to be going for a second run. Here we go. We'll ride on board with one of the Ferraris for this time around. Haven't been very impactful this season, unfortunately. However, there's always room for improvement. As we look at the standings as well, and I will give you all a quick fill on that. So Alfa Romeo currently lead the championship, the Constructors' Championship, with 134 points, followed by Alpine with 94, AlphaTauri with 86, Haas with 80, and Aston Martin with, I believe that is a slight error. I believe Aston Martin is ahead of Haas with 83 points and Haas with 80. Williams currently has 77 points, Ferrari with 64, Red Bull with 25, McLaren with 17, and Mercedes with 7. As we sit on board with Oswaldo as he comes DRS wide open through the second DRS zone. Let's see if he can make any competitive times, any sector light ups. No, however, he is 2 seconds faster on his time. Maybe still not good enough for P1 at the moment, but if he can improve massively in the last few corners, he should be able to get pole position on this lap.
Yeah, pole position might be a bit tough considering he only has about one corner to go, but yeah, I think he'll be looking at a good improvement here. Should push him up further up the order.
This is all assuming he doesn't lose the car, which he does not. Coming across the line, he sets a 121.1, which is unfortunately not very fast and not very competitive, as he still sits in P13. Now, Blood, obviously, with 5 minutes left to go, I think it's time to discuss how important starting positions are here. Now, obviously, when as Oswaldo completely cuts the corner and just decides to go through, pulls a Sebastian Vettel and goes right through the styrofoam bollards or the styrofoam barriers. But as I was about to ask you, how important is your starting position around here in a track like this?
I think if there's any track that you would like to start from the back off, it would definitely be Monza. Maybe this or Spa. Very easy to overtake, as I'm sure you know. There's lots of opportunities, especially in the middle of the pack, so it doesn't really matter what your starting position is, as long as you get a little bit lucky with safety cars maybe, or you have a really good strategy. You can make anything work. Any starting position should mean a good chance of points. As we've seen in real life as well, many people taking their engine penalties starting from the back, Max Verstappen taking a 5-place grid penalty. Stuff like that, you know, it's the track that you're willing to lose out on the most, especially when you're talking about quali. So yeah, it's I would say it's a good track to start from the back of.
But obviously, we also have to consider into the fact that there is the first chicane, which is infamous in especially online multiplayer lobbies for being one of those circuits which obviously has a lot of carnage.
Especially Tier 2.
Yes, especially in Tier 2, where people 95% of the time miss their braking points, but alas, they learn. And, well, at least I hope they do, as P Shadow comes across the line, sets a 120.4 and pushes himself up into P6. Ella seems to have started his flying lap as well. So we will ride on board with... Oh, he's about to finish it. Oh, no, never mind. Oh, Ella seems to be starting his flying lap. Oh, wait.
No. He just started his lap.
He just started his lap. So now we will ride on board with Ella for a bit. And Smatters, who is right ahead of him. Ella seems to be tucking into the slipstream of Smatters. Maybe hopefully trying to find those extra 500s as he loses the car coming out of the first chicane. You do not want to be riding those curbs too much. So we go back to Smatters, who... I believe is starting his...
He's starting his flying lap. So, yeah, approaching the first braking zone, trying to brake at 110 meters, DRS slams shut. He takes a lot of that inside curb, which might have cost him a bit of time, but if he gets that right, that's going to really boost his lap times as he heads down towards the Curva Grande now. Around speeds of 320 kph while he's approaching the second chicane, one of the trickiest to get right on this track. cuts a bit of the inside, gets a bit of the outside curb, seems to have gotten that pretty spot on as he approaches Lesmo 1, looking for an inside tight line and then letting the car flow wide as he does. And again, Lesmo 2, these corners come at you so quick. Barely takes any of the outside curb, which is interesting. I've seen a lot of these Tier 2 drivers not taking any of the outside curb, as we have yellow flags up ahead. I believe that is for a McLaren, letting somebody through, possibly Ella. But yeah, as he gets through, Ascari keeps a nice minimum speed and smooth on the exit, as that McLaren needs to get out of the way and does so very nicely. Approaching the final corner, Parabolica, it's one of the hardest on traction, especially on the exit. Seems to be pushing it. Runs a little bit wide, but keeps it nice and tight for the exit. That'll keep a good minimum speed, and he goes fastest. Wow, what a lap.
And Smatters now setting a 119.8. Obviously, this is perfect for his situation. Ella needing to go and set up his lap time now, considering there's only a minute and 20 left on the circuit. Now, obviously, with this much time left during this race, traffic will be a big issue for Ella going forward.
Yeah, as we can already see, he's approaching an AlphaTauri who keeps out of the way nicely. I don't think he has much more traffic behind him, but there seem to be not a lot of drivers out on track, surprisingly. There's quite a few who are still in pits, as Nacho retires as well. But yeah, traffic doesn't seem to be an issue for Ella at the moment. He's flying along nicely.
We see Font has also retired in the pits, has probably set his number of laps and does not feel like he's going to be improving any further. However, Ella coming across the second Lesmos, going down the DRS zone. Let's see if he can set any improvements in this sector too. We should see if he's up by any amount. He only needs a little bit, almost a tenth. He's up by a tenth and a half through the Ascari chicane. If he can keep it neat, if he can keep it tidy, we might be looking at a different pole sitter here. Smatters currently on provisional pole as Ella comes down the final straight towards the towards the final turn, keeping it nice and tidy towards the right, does not go too wide, and then he should be sticking towards the right. As Ella crosses the line, he sets a 119.7. Wow. Manages to steal pole position from Smatters' teeth, who seem to be in charge of the session throughout the entire race.
Yeah, and the timer runs out, so I believe that will stick. It doesn't look like anybody else is on a very impressive lap. Jack is down by about a tenth on his previous best, so unless he gets a miracle Sector 3 or a Sector 2 and 3, we won't be seeing much improvements from him.
We see Jack, of course, pushing, but more importantly, we also see Jacko, Lacko, and Pyro. Both these drivers, as Jacko manages to give his teammate Pyro quite a bit of DRS through that last straight. Will it be enough to put Pyro higher up than P9? We shall see as he comes across the line and sets a 120.5, which unfortunately will not be enough to improve.
The exact same time as his teammate, might I add.
That is very impressive, as both Alfa Romeo drivers set the exact same time, and as Jack actually manages to set a 120.0, pushing himself into P3, as we see that Robin has been disqualified from the session. We will get more info on that as to why. But yes, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded the qualifying session here at Monza. We have Ella on pole position, followed by Smatters, Jack, Caesar, King David, Rollarula, P Shadow, Jacko Lacko, httpPyro, and CRL Nacho. And that will round off your top 10 here at Monza.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting fastest lap that we see. It's faster than what Tier 1 managed to set. But that was obviously a rain-impacted session, so yeah. Not to say that Tier 2 is faster than Tier 1.
I think that is exactly what it implies, that Tier 2 is absolutely quicker.
Definitely not.
Right, and as we see, I believe Ella has run out of fuel. And has retired from the session. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that will round off your grid for here at Monza. Hopefully we should have an exciting race, as the grid definitely seems to be very interesting. Ella, as he parks his car on the side of the track, decides to wave to the countless fans, the Tifosi that have come here to attend at the race. And there he is, your pole sitter with a 119.7, Ella, setting a blistering time, and Smatters, of course. Both these P1 and P2 seem to be neck and neck with each other. Smatters seemed to be having the dominant performance. I thought he would have had pole position, considering how long he was sitting in provisional pole.
Yeah, I mean, start of the qualifying session, he set just such a quick lap time for a banker. That's kind of what I was doing when I was practicing for this track, and didn't seem to improve all that much. Maybe just a tenth in it for him, but other than that, yeah, I mean, Could have been closer, could have found a little bit more time, but 1.5 tenths at this track, it seems to be quite the gap.
Right, and ladies and gentlemen, as we just wait a few more minutes and we will get started at Monza. So everybody, please make sure to get yourself some drinks and yourself some food because we only have a few more minutes until the race starts.
Make sure to get a helmet because this is going to be carnage.
Right, as we are almost here to get started, 15 seconds left before the formation lap begins. It seems to be a very nice and dry track today. No signs of rain, so we should be looking for some very, very fast-paced racing here. Blood, obviously, you know the carnage that comes with a circuit like this. How many safety cars are you expecting throughout this race?
Oh yeah, I mean for this tier, I don't think any number I give you is going to be enough. I mean, but I guess that's a bit of an exaggeration. You'll be looking at maybe 2, I'd say, or maybe 3 if these guys are in a good mood. But yeah, that should be about the only amounts that we should see, because even in Tier 1 there was a lot of carnage. There was a lot of carnage in Tier 3, I think. I'm not entirely sure about that, but yeah, this track is known for just causing a lot of crashes, and there's a lot of blessed drivers on the grid. Not naming any names, but yeah. So I think we are going to see quite a bit of safety cars in this session.
Right, so ladies and gentlemen, 27 laps around here at Monza. Ella leading the pack in the formation lap, followed by Smatters and LX and Jack and Caesar, and that will round off your top 4 in your grid, define the top 4 slots of your grid. So as they're coming across the second Ascari, coming across the second Lesmos and going down to the DRS zone, a lot of drivers seem to be quite loosely behind over here. I'm not too sure if Ella should probably slow down as he doesn't want to lose too much tire temperatures parked into the same spot. Meanwhile, it seems like Caesar seems to be holding up the grid quite far back, which I'm sure Ella would not be very much appreciating. Regardless, we're looking for a great race around here, tons of tire strategy, which as a mention of fact, we should probably take a look at, as most of the drivers seem to be starting off on the mediums, other than Caesar, who's on the hards, and King David on the softs. Now, obviously, with your experience here, what do you think of these strategy calls?
Brave, definitely brave to start on the hards and the softs. I think it's far from the safest strategy, but hey, I mean, if it works out, it works out. King David is going to be looking at burning up those softs in maybe the first 8 laps, maybe 7, considering he did the formation lap on them as well. Starting from the back, I would say the hards gamble is definitely something that you might want to look into, as we can see Easy Level Bot and Robin doing that. It's been known to pay off sometimes it may not, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to see how the race progresses, and then we can tell from there.
And as Ella has parked up, we are still waiting for Robin as well as the last 4 drivers to come towards the grid, who have seemingly taken forever to line up, as Caesar unfortunately gets disqualified, as well as Pyro. Right, and as the drivers begin to line up here for Monza, and we will get started very, very shortly, as soon as all the drivers are lined up. Right, it's lights out, 4 or 5 lights, and it's lights out, and away we go here as Ella gets a very, very decent start, but Smatters side by side with him. Meanwhile, LX and Jack gets a fantastic launch and goes straight into P1 from P3 as we come into the first braking zone. As how much carnage will there be as Caesar sends it down the inside and manages to go over the curbs, but then comes and bangs right back into LX and Jack, who is now dropping down the grid. BRZ Pepito seems to have spun out, and there's a McLaren of Ella who has gone straight into the barrier with tons of damage. Meanwhile, King David now begins to lead the race as Caesar now sits in P2 with Jack in P3. Pyro getting a fantastic launch off the line and now is entering P4 at the moment currently as well. This was a chaotic start as around the inside goes Jack. But meanwhile, Caesar still managing to keep the position over here. King David seems to have... and as Caesar spun out and crashed and lost his front wing.
Done a Rigo. And that will definitely be a safety car.
He's done an Italiano Rigo. And that, ladies and gentlemen, right there is a current, I believe, virtual safety car. As the rest of the pack begins to slow down, as we don't seem to be seeing another... Yes, as it is a VSC, so which gives us all a quick second to breathe here after that very chaotic start. So Jackalacko and Ella seemingly dropping down the whole grid, as well as Caesar after his massive spin. So those hard tires will be coming immediately right off. King David, meanwhile, benefiting using the soft tires grip and pushing himself into P1.
You know, this is the ideal situation for the hard tires, because this little push of VSC will help them last just that little bit longer, maybe push them for another lap or so. As we see Caesar's into the pits to change his front wing, the rest of the hard runners, two that I can see, are staying out, and they'll be hoping that there are no more safety cars till their pit window.
Right, and as now we look at the rest of the grid, as King David in P1, Jack in P2, Pyro in P3, Smatters with P4, and P-Shadow in P5. So... obviously, for Jackalacko, who is a very strong championship contender going up against King David, this is not what he would have wanted at all.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Far from the ideal start from him. King David, though, I believe he was starting P5 up to P1 off of the start, which is very impressive. Robin making up a few positions, goes from P15 to P11. That's very impressive from him as well.
Seeing as how this is probably the longest VSC, as the track has now finally gone green and drivers can now finally go racing, as we sit on board with Nacho, who seems to be very close behind to Rollerula. Let's see if he can make a move into Ascari, no can do over there. As we go down even further, as BRZ Pepito only 2/10 behind Easy Level Bot. If he can get a good launch from here of Ascari, he might be able to make a move or send it down the inside. However, nothing doing yet. Looking up and down the grid, there seems to be a bit of gaps forming here and there. Smatter seems to be 3/10 behind Pyro, 2/10 now, as he seemingly has a fantastic slipstream going into the first chicane. Pyro probably going to be using most of his DRS to keep Smatters behind him, but no move going into there. Thought about diving down the inside, but was probably a sensible decision to not send it that far back.
Yeah, definitely not. That's asking for trouble, especially losing a front wing at this stage of the game would be... especially right after a safety car, that just relegates you to the back without any chance of fighting back.
As we look down more of the rest of the grid, as we see that Smatter seems to be very, very closely behind, and Pyro also making a very, very close move on Jack. So it seems like King David seems to be just running away with the race, and everyone behind Jack is now beginning to kind of form a DRS train with lap 3 going into lap 4 over here.
Yeah, those soft tires, I mean, they'll help you carry more speed, they'll help you get past and everything, but they're definitely going to come back to haunt you towards the end of the race. As Smatters gets really close behind Pyro once again, but does not go for a move. Yeah, we can see the traces of a DRS train beginning to form here, as he's now 2/10 behind Pyro. Not thinking about a move down into Parabolica, he's going to want to look to the inside just to spot his braking point. And now, over across the Parabolica, Pyro does not look like he's having the best of times through there, and this is going to give Smatters a lot of encouragement down the straight. He's now 1 and a bit tenths behind. He's definitely going to try and send it down the inside. He goes, approaching the first braking zone down, braking at 150 meters. Is he going to brake later? He does. Pyro cannot get the switchback on him, and Smatters has cleared him and got P3 with that.
Oh, the fantastic over there from Smatters. Pyro now gets pushed down into P4. However, Pyro does not believe that the move is over yet. Still following Smatters very, very closely. Maybe potentially going to try to make a move down into the second chicane. However, a bit too far back on this occasion to try anything out. As we see, BRZ Pepito is side by side with Easy Level Bot. Will he make a move? No, he can't. Easy Level Bot seems to be harder on later on the brakes. Pushing Pepito, keeping Pepito currently in P9 as we speak. However, as we can see, with a 1.8 second gap to King David, and Smatters now also beginning to drop off from Jack, it seems to be a very, very close battle for P4, all the way dropping down to P5, up to P6.
It looks as if Jack is closing in on King David. He definitely is, multiple tenths per corner. The gap was 2.2 seconds, it's now come down to 1.4. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the softs will be much slower than the mediums at this point, but Jack is really driving his heart out there. He's catching up to P1 really quick. through all the corners now, 1.3 seconds. So yeah, should be right up to the back of the gearbox of King David within, I'd say, another lap or maybe 2 laps.
Pyro realizing the importance of the DRS over here at this track, barely trying to keep it within Smatters, because knowing that as soon as he gets out of that DRS zone, P Shadow is going to be right there to overtake him. However, as we see over here, is BRZ Pepito with the DRS, as I was speaking, manages to overtake Easy Level Bot down the pit straight and manages to make a brilliant move into the first chicane. However, going back to the front of the field, we can see that Pyro now only 4/10 behind Smatters, with P Shadow right behind them as well. Obviously, these drivers need to be keeping within the DRS zone of each other. Font seems to be only 2/10 behind Jacko Lacko as well. However, no move going into the second chicane.
Yeah, looks a bit tame over there in the middle of the pack. Definitely not the close gaps that we were expecting. Everybody's following within each other's DRS. There's a few different DRS trains beginning to form. Mostly at the back and at the front, there's about 3 cars, I'd say. 4 cars involved in the front one and maybe like 5 or 6 in the back train. But yeah, keeping within the DRS, especially if you're on the hard tires, you just need to stay within the DRS of the cars in front of you, especially the medium runners. Help them pull you along, try and keep up with their pace for as long as you can. If you don't lose that much on your hard tires, they're really going to come towards you towards the end of the race.
An interesting thing I'm noticing is that Pyro seems to be losing a lot of time through the corners, however, gains a lot of times through the straight, so it's safe to say that Pyro is running a very low downforce setup, as he is trying still to stay within the DRS of Smatters, and Smatters within the DRS of Jack. However, as we look up and down the rest of the grid, we don't really see too many competitive times, as Jack, however, does seem to be almost 2/10 behind Robin. No move making into the first corner over there. If he can get a good launch out of the first chicane, he might be able to make a move on Robin going into the second. However, no, it doesn't seem like there's any potential with that, as Robin seems to be flat out through that corner as well. But looking around the rest of the grid, it seems like everyone seems to be entering their own little bubbles, as Blood was saying earlier that there are different DRS trains beginning to form, separated by 1 or 2 cars. Lap 6 is almost over. We are in lap 6, approaching lap 7. King David's tires are probably gonna start going off one of the cliffs around this point, wouldn't you say?
They'll surely be dropping off, yes, but if he's conservative with them, he can make them last a little bit longer. As you can see, Jack is now within the DRS of King David. That's going to be haunting him all throughout the rest of this lap. Don't quite think he's close enough to go for a move, but only time will tell. He might have been saving a bit of ERS as he gets a little bit out of shape and loses a couple 3/10 through the Parabolica. That's not what he wanted. He's definitely not going to be close enough on this occasion to get past.
Manages to still stay within the DRS zone, though, of King David, which will be absolutely crucial in this overtake. Lap 7 now, as King David would probably be most likely be hoping for a safety car or a VSC to quickly get a free pit stop. Obviously, pitting here at Monza, as 90% of the track is a straight, there is a lot of time to be gained through this circuit. As we look down the rest of the grid as well, as BRZ Pepito seems to have a bit of a moment with EXE Robin right with him. Will Robin be able to make any move? Pepito's ERS light is blinking, as I don't believe there's any move being made into that corner. However, Jack only 3/10 behind, as there is a yellow flag of Font, who I believe has spun out. Doesn't seem to have given us the notification that he's gone out. And as we see here, as Jack right behind David, not about to make a move into Ascari. However, you know, with this type of pace that Jack is showing and those softs going off, Jack will be hoping for any momentum he can as he slips right behind King David into his slipstream, goes towards the inside. Will he be making a move around the Parabolica? No, he will not. Decides to stay around the outside. Probably assumes that King David will be pitting, which I believe would be the sensible option at this point in the race, which he doesn't do, however. And now Jack with the DRS wide open right behind King David. If King David has enough ERS, which he does not seem to do, does not seem to have, Jack down the inside of the first chicane. Will he be able to make the move? Goes a bit over the curb, but King David manages to make the move, manages to keep the position. However, Jack, trying to go for the switchback, did not get it through all the way, but now side by side through with King David. King David on the inside. Will there be any carnage or any collision? No, there will not. They're still side by side going towards the second chicane. Heavy on the brakes as Jack manages to make the move on King David and enters P1, and now is your current race leader.
Yeah, it was a good move. He got the job done on the switchback, made sure to get the better traction, used DRS, followed in his slipstream. And yeah, solid move from him up into P1. And from now, he just has to hope that King David holds up some of the other medium runners a little bit so he can try and run away with this a little bit sooner.
Smatters also now with DRS, as now we see King David with his tire grip falling off, getting swallowed up by the rest of the pack, or about to be swallowed up by the rest of the pack, as we see Smatters practically eating the rear diffuser of King David. As we go down towards the Parabolica, King David's ERS light seems to be blinking, as well as LX, as well as Jack's. So this should be interesting if there will be any moves going forward. As we see King David more towards the inside, probably decides to finally go into the pits, and now there we go. There is your first pit stop without a wing change by King David as he switches off the softs, and we'll see what he moves to soon. As we see Smatters also gets overtaken by P-Shadow. As I was too busy focused on that, Smatters still down the inside manages to keep the position on him through the first chicane. P-Shadow, you know, will be looking definitely to make the move right back at him. Jack enjoying this fight between Smatters and P-Shadow as it gives him a chance to pull away from the rest of the grid. As we look down, look down towards the rest of the grid, and we see King David has switched onto the hard tires. Do you believe these hard tires will make it towards the end of the race? He has to do roughly, I believe, 16 laps on these tires.
18, I'd say, and tricky one that.
18,
they will definitely make it towards the end, but these medium runners are going to have the benefit. Ooh, as Jack gets all out of shape coming out of the second Lesmo, as now Smatters is going to look for some encouragement just like that, back in his DRS. But yeah, those hard tires, they'll definitely make it to the end, but they certainly will not be the quickest on track. The other drivers should have a lot fresher tires towards the end, so that's going to be a bit of a tough one for King David to hold on to the position.
Jacko, meanwhile, makes a brilliant move on Oswaldo and pushes himself back up into P7 after he had a horrible start. However, seems to be recovering well. Rolla, meanwhile, on the other hand, does have a penalty, which unfortunately doesn't look like it will affect him too badly, assuming I believe it is not much. It is only a 3-second, where, however, BRZ Pepito, meanwhile, sitting with a 5-second penalty. And as we look at Smatters and Jack, as I was talking, go side by side through the first chicane as they're banging wheels with Shadow right behind them. Smatters forcing his way through and now leading the race. LX and Jack sitting in P2. P-Shadow, meanwhile, on the other hand, also seemingly wants to get very, very involved. However, it would be wise of him to sit back and just watch how this battle plays out and hopefully try to capitalize on this. As we see that Smatters going into the first Lesmos manages to does not seem to lose the car at all. P-Shadow, on the other hand, following very, very closely behind on Jack. And all of a sudden, as Jack now gets a 3-second time penalty, which is not what he needed. However, all of a sudden now, it looks like there is a 4-way battle for P1.
Yeah, Pyro involved quite nicely in that. All those battles that they had over there has caused them to cruise right up to the back of the pack. He's definitely in the mix. Any driver who's within the DRS train still has a good shot of winning the race. It's not always the guy who's leading. If anything, the guy who's leading is in the worst position to win the race. Hardest to save ERS without a slipstream, especially without DRS. And to keep all those cars behind, you have to use a lot on the straights.
However, Jack, we'll see if Jack does have DRS, and he does. However, P-Shadow right behind him does not want to let Jack go. P-Shadow down towards the inside. Will he have the move done before the first chicane? Jack manages to concede the corner, unfortunately. However, he gets a good switchback as Shadow goes way too deep and has to go over the curves, and Jack manages to get the switchback around P-Shadow and goes back into P2, with Pyro also capitalizing on P-Shadow's mistake. This is the problem with these kind of drivers. You need to be careful about your braking point. Otherwise, if you go too deep, you will miss opportunities and you will lose positions here.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely got a bit too excited on that. So he tried to get past Pyro, but nothing doing into that chicane. That's just asking for a crash.
And now we see that Jack is now managing to pull away from Pyro as well after Pyro manages to overtake P-Shadow. However, we will see if Pyro will be able to close that gap. As this battle continues, we will look down a bit down the grid as Easy Level Bot seems to still be in Jackalaco's DRS, and everybody else seems to be quite far behind on each other now. So I don't believe there's going to be too many battles going on other than for P1 at the moment.
Yeah, looks a bit tame. Definitely wasn't expecting that. But when these guys do come together, they certainly provide us with a lot of entertaining racing, which if I'm being honest, I was not expecting from this tier, but they seem to have surprised me quite pleasantly, actually. These guys are doing great.
Tier 2 seems to be on a fantastic roll this season as we see P-Shadow coming into the pits. As he believes it is now time to change from the medium tires, possibly go on to the hards. Isn't it a bit too soon for pit stops?
Yeah, I mean, that's the trouble with the undercut. If he can find a nice gap to come out into, then certainly it might pay off. But otherwise, he's just kind of got himself stuck in traffic. I believe he will come out behind the Alpine of Nacho, and he does. And maybe also behind King David. Yeah, King David getting a nice undercut on him. So yeah, it's going to be trouble from there to set in the good lap times, try and extract the most out of the tires to get that undercut. That's the trouble. Going for the overcut sometimes just pays off a little bit more because when you have the tire advantage, it's easier to overtake around this track.
As Font also goes into the pits with 11 laps and manages to get a 5-second penalty. I'm going to assume for probably speeding in the pit lane. However, as we ride on board with Easy Level Bot, as he is now only 8/10 behind Jacko Lacko, seemingly one of the only two cars that are actually within the DRS zone. The other one also being the Haas of Caesar, who is currently 2/10 right behind P Shadow. As we can quickly switch over to that move, those drivers, and see if there's any moves going on over here. P Shadow obviously on the cold hards, probably struggling to warm them up. Meanwhile, Caesar, will he be able to make a move? Goes towards the inside of Ascari. P Shadow having to concede that position, and Caesar moving himself up into P10. As the race leader, Jack and Pyro, the top four, decide to come into the pits, and Jacko decides to stay out. Now is your provisional race leader of this race as well, with 12 laps on the mediums. Easy Level Bot sitting in P2 with 12 laps on the hards. Lap 13, the drivers decided to pit. Jack, what do you think? I mean, Pyro's already gone into the pits, so most likely team orders there to not pit at the same time, to not hold each other up.
Yeah, probably. Judging by the fact that they orchestrated that whole slipstream, they're probably in a party together, communicating and stuff, so it's smart that they didn't pit at the same time. I think that staying out just a little bit longer might help Jacko in maybe getting another position or something, but yeah, I guess we'll have to see in a little bit. Time will tell, because at the moment it looks like Smatters is ahead of, and King David crucially undercuts Lixon Jack. So he's in front of Jack, but obviously he has those slight bit older tires. 4 laps means a lot of difference here at Monza, especially towards the end when you're looking at tire wear. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can hold on to that position, stay in the DRS train, maybe even make the pass himself, as he's run out of ERS already towards Ascari. So yeah.
Smatter is only 4/10 ahead of King David. King David obviously trying to make up as many positions as possible, trying to capitalize on having that hotter set of hard tires. However, by the end of the lap, Smatters has probably warmed up his hard tires as well. However, crucially for King David, Smatters is not in the DRS zone of Robin. As we see up at the head of the grid as well, Easy Level Bot manages to overtake Jacko Lacko. However, they will be moving down the rest of the grid, after their pit stops. As we see King David down towards around the outside of Smatters. Will there be contact? No contact so far. Drivers are still side by side through the first chicane, as King David manages to make a brilliant move on Smatters, and all of a sudden LX and Jack also getting very, very involved in this around the outside of King David. Around the outside of Smatters, I apologies, and Smatters sends it down the inside and manages to get the position.
Ooh, a bit of a tap there, that might mean front wing damage.
Could potentially mean front wing damage for LX and Jack, as this is very, very close racing, as there is a McLaren that has spun out, and I believe that is the McLaren of Ella, who had seemed to have spun out or have caused an incident. As we see King David now leading ahead of the race, with Jack currently ahead of this DRS train, with Jack closely trying to follow and overtake Smatters crucially, which is essential for his race. Meanwhile, we see Jacko Lacko over here side by side with Easy Level Bot through the Parabolica, manages to make no move and go straight into the pitch, which was probably the sensible decision considering his mediums were now entering the 13 lap zone, which probably means that they were going off the cliff eventually.
Yeah, I mean, should put him out in a decent enough position. It's probably going to be behind this whole train of cars over here, but couple laps of tire advantage maybe just might mean the difference, as we can see Smatters and King David going side by side, and a bit of wheel banging as well. Smatters is trying everything to get past King David as he goes down the inside and now the outside of turn 2 and gets the position, gets the move done. Look like a more solid exit from him, and all of these cars are spaced out quite evenly now, so I don't think we'll see any moves into the second chicane.
Meanwhile, we can see that Jack is patiently waiting, and as we see, it's almost like an 8-car, not even an 8-car, it is a 6-car DRS train, all for P3, or net P1 as a matter of fact, considering Easy Level Bot and Robin have not pitted as of yet. And as we can see, these 6 cars coming down the second DRS zone. No moves going down over here, unfortunately, by the looks of it, as everyone seems to have DRS on each other. Into Ascari we go. Looking down the rest of the grid, past those 6 drivers, nobody seems to be making any moves or any inclinations on each other. A bunch of penalties have begun to set in, as we will take a look at that as well. Oh, as we see that King David and Jack are now side by side, as Jack manages to go down the inside of the Parabolica, but however King David probably going to look around to maybe getting the DRS and making the overtake right back on Jack, as we see over here. Will he get the DRS? Of course he does. However, Jack managing to get the much better exit out of the Parabolica, and does not seem like King David will be able to make the move on him on this occasion. So good job from Jack for capitalizing on one of those incidents from from one of those mistakes by King David, and able to move himself further up into the grid.
Yeah, you see that's the trouble with going onto those hard tires so early. I mean, it may not seem like a lot, 4 laps tire delta, but it is quite a bit. It makes you lose a lot on the exits. That's especially why I think those people leading the race, Easy Level Bot and Robin, they should be looking at a pretty good finishing position. If they can extend their hard stint maybe just a little bit, go on the softs, or even if they do choose to go into the mediums, they should be in a pretty good situation to end the race. And a lot of these drivers looking pretty well behaved. Somebody must have sat them down and had a chat with them. I mean, Tier 2 notorious as Pyro and Caesar going side by side, wheel banging there, but Caesar holds the position in front of Pyro and gets all out of shape, and that will give Pyro encouragement towards the Parabolica. Is he going to get the move done side by side into the corner? Yes, he does. He's well clear of Caesar, but now Caesar will obviously have that DRS on Pyro.
Interestingly enough, Caesar has not decided to pit yet, despite being on 14-lap old medium tires. You would think that he would hopefully make the move, as we see over here that P-Shadow is now going to make a dive down the inside of King David, heavy on the brakes. King David seemingly getting swallowed up by the rest of the pack, side by side through the first chicane. Beautiful racing by both these drivers to avoid collision, as King David still seemingly goes around the outside and manages to retain the position. However, P-Shadow sticking very, very closely behind, maybe potentially going to make a move into the second chicane. Goes towards the outside, but however seems to be too far back on this occasion to be able to make a move, as he taps the rear end of King David. I don't think he may have gotten wing damage from that. However, it was a bit too close for comfort there.
Yeah, he was seemingly pushing him around the corner. That's not on. But anyways, Jack, yeah, he's looking good at the moment. Outside of the DRS of King David, it's just him versus Smatters, it seems. King David losing a lot of positions, and he loses the position to P-Shadow, goes down the inside towards Ascari. Can he make it stick towards the Parabolica? I guess we'll find out. It looked like King David was struggling a bit on ERS as well. So
it's very interesting to see King David dropping down as much as he is. Is there any possibility that he might have front wing damage?
No, it's not damage. His car looks to be fine. Possibly, maybe something else like side pod damage or something. Looks to be a bit slow in the straights, honestly, as Easy Level Bot comes in finally for a new set of mediums. Robin stays out, however, maybe looking for a little bit more tire advantage, maybe going to the softs, who knows?
The softs would not be a bad idea at this stage in the race, especially considering the surprising fact we have not had an actual safety car throughout this entire race.
That's a big shocker now.
We have had one, as we say that, and there seems to be an incident. I'm not too sure where it was Rula and Easy Level Bot, it seems like.
Yeah, I thought that was Robin for a second. I got scared.
I thought that I might have kicked in the commentator curse. However, we seem to still be doing okay. As King David, now 4/10 behind P-Shadow, does not seem to be improving too well, as Pyro seems to be hunting down King David and wants to get that P5 position to secure those 10 points. However, as we see over here, Robin comfortably leading the race with 17 laps on these hard tires. Surely he's going to come in and pit soon to move on to the softs.
Yeah, I mean, mediums would definitely not be a smart choice from here on out. Those hards look like they're not in the best of shape as he stays out again. So yeah, definitely going towards the softs. Yeah, but he's motoring along nicely. 6-second gap from 10 seconds. He's only lost about 4 seconds to people who have like 15 lap fresher tires than him. So yeah, I mean, this race could very much still come to him, especially if there's a safety car now.
Right, entering lap 19 with almost 8 laps left to go. We will see if there's any dramatic changes here. As we have seen in Tier 2 in the past few races, there have been a lot of incidents in nearing the last few laps where drivers come under pressure and then capsize. However, it seems to be that drivers are holding up pretty well nicely against each other, as now Jack only 3/10 behind Smatters, looking to get that net P1 position after Robin obviously will come into pit. However, we can see the King David also managing to stay within the DRS zone of P Shadow despite getting overtaken by him. So hopefully trying to make sure that he stays within that penalty window, trying to hopefully capitalize on the positions gained by that.
Yeah, I mean, 5/10 gap, he's doing well staying with them, especially being on much older tires. He needs that, you know, he needs to keep helping these guys, like these guys help him to pull him along and stuff for the rest of the race. Because those tires, they don't look that good at the moment. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to carry them towards the end of the race. They surely will make it, but they won't be in the best of conditions. So what he needs now is to just wait as Robin comes into the pits finally. So it should be soft tires that we see go on to him.
I'd be very surprised to see any other tires fitted onto him, as we see Jack now diving down the outside of Smatters for the net position for net P1. However, Smatters heavy on the brakes and they collide, and Jack spins out, and Smatters manages to spin out Jack despite it being clean racing for most of the session. Jack will not be happy about that.
Yeah, definitely not. He's lost a lot of positions there. He's down to P5 and a good. He's quite a bit back from Smatters at the moment. So. That was not ideal, to say the least. He's not going to be happy about that as he gets another moment coming out of the chicane.
No, that it really messes with your concentration as a driver, because once you enter that flow of being consistent with your laps, an incident like that really throws you off. However, P Shadow, King David, and Pyro all benefiting from this, moving up a position. As we see now, Smatters sitting in P1, followed by Shadow, King David, and Pyro. King David managing to stay within the DRS zone of Shadow. We'll see if there's any coming from that during the next few laps, as I believe that is 100% going to be a report from Jack about Smatters.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see that the steward, well, at least now the stewards we've seen something that the stewards will definitely be having a look at later on. But moving on from that incident, Jack now only 6/10 behind Pyro, gonna be trying to make amends. Obviously, still sitting there with a bunch of penalties. As we see Shadow with 5 seconds and Font sitting there with 11 at the back of the grid, not having a great race at all.
Yeah, as he goes wide and onto the gravel, he's definitely not enjoying himself out there at the moment. Yeah, but it looks good for Pyro at the moment. He could very much be on the podium, provided he stays within that 5-second gap, which he very comfortably is at the moment. P Shadow needs a hell of a lot of good laps to try and pull that gap out and stay on the podium. P2 looks a little bit tough at the moment, but he can try and salvage maybe a P3 out of this, but it's not looking too good at the moment.
And as we say that, P Shadow is now slowly beginning to catch Smatters up ahead as well. So move down a bit down the rest of the grid and look around what's happening. We can see Easy Level Bot almost within a second of Ella, obviously sitting on the 3-lap old mediums compared to Ella's 19-lap old hards. So it's safe to say that Easy Level Bot will be making a ton of ground on this occasion.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed otherwise. He already set I believe he set the fastest lap, or maybe that was
Caesar, yeah.
Yeah, that was the other Haas driver. So yeah, both he and Robin seem to be catching up to the grid, but it looks like it might just be a point finish for both of them. I don't think that they're going to be able to make much more of a dent in this, especially considering if there's a safety car now, then their entire strategy was for nothing to say.
But wouldn't a safety car at this stage be absolutely beautiful to see?
I know Ella's preying on one. He's been on those hards for 20 laps.
Yeah.
So he's definitely struggling out there.
For sure, Ella is definitely on those hard tires of his are probably screaming to be taken off his car. However, Ella just continues to use them and gives them no mercy whatsoever.
Yeah, no, he's relentless. You know what? I'd be very surprised if there is not a puncture on that car towards the end of the race, or at least 2 punctures, because he's asking those tires to do what, 25 laps on the hards? Yeah. That's just absurd, if I'm being honest. I do a good 20 on them, and my tires are like 70-80% done already. So, yeah.
We'll sit on board with Ella and see if he decides to pit on this occasion. Only 5 laps left to go. It would be tragic for him to pit at this stage, however. Obviously, you know, with only 5 laps left to go, sitting in P7, a good amount of points still on the board available. However, if he has to manage to get his car towards the end of the race, obviously he's going to have to look at something for tires.
Pyro seems to be gaining on King David as well, well within 5/10.
Yeah, almost 4/10 now behind King David, as King David now seems to be once again close to being swallowed up by the drivers behind him. And as we say that and then we look back, we can see that Ella has not decided to pit.
And the easy level bot, it might be going for a move on Ella, and he is. Gets the position towards the chicane, goes over the curbs now. There's a bit of contact between them, but looks mostly clean for the most part. As Ella trying to slot in behind, but now gets a terrible exit as Robin is now on the soft tires, going to try and go around the outside of the Curva Grande and down towards the inside now of the chicane. Is he going to be able to make the position? It seems like he is. That is great racing from Robin. And now he just has to hunt down easy level bot to get that P7 position.
Ella, it is time to take those hard tires off, my friend. They are not working for you. But as we go back to the front of the grid, we can see that Pyro only almost a 10th behind King David going into the Ascari chicane. And King David obviously with 4-lap older hards. And as we can see that there's been a massive spin as who is it? It's Jack. As Jack has spun out and lost his front wing as well.
Oh, that is tragic for him.
And for a driver who was looking...
And he's beached. Is he beached? No.
No, he's good. Waiting. But Jack, who unfortunately was looking at this race as a potential race win, will now have to finish this race, will now have to go into the pits and change his front wing. As we see Pyro almost a 10th behind King David going into the first chicane. No move done from him, however. Very surprising. I thought he would 100% make the lunge there. But big, but really, really sad news for Jack is now he's gone all the way into P12 and enters the pits to change his front wing. This has truly been a sad tale for the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, both Aston Martins not looking like they're going to finish in the points. Unfortunately, Jack. Surely he goes on the soft tires from here, maybe snag away that fastest lap point from Caesar, but other than that, his race is pretty much over from here on out.
Pyro, meanwhile, still 4/10 behind King David with DRS wide open. Will he be able to make a move into the Ascari chicane? We shall see. King David, infamously, we all have seen, does not have the greatest straight line speed, but still has enough to keep Pyro behind him. Pyro obviously now getting hungrier and hungrier with only 3 laps left to go. King David always seems to be going towards the left-hand side after the Ascari chicane.
Yeah, maybe trying to break the slipstream. Maybe that's just the line he's comfortable with, but definitely interesting for sure.
Yeah, as we see Pyro coming through
another
Parabolica.
Yellow flag, and it's
Robin, as Robin has seemed to have an incident as well with his soft tires as well. Doesn't seem to have a lot of damage, but as we go back to the front of the grid, Pyro is too far back, unfortunately, on this occasion. Or is he? Yes, no, he's way too far back on this occasion to make the move. However, it seems like everyone seems to be spinning out as Robin comes into... No, he does not decide to pit. He decides to stay out.
So no damage there, but yeah, that's horrifying for Robin there. He's... yeah, those soft tires have not worked out for him. The gamble has not worked out.
As Ella continues to go out on his 23
this
laps.
guy's a legend.
23 laps on these hard tires, sitting in P7. Absolute, well, words I will not say, but has definitely big guts, for lack of better terms. Pyro, meanwhile, still 4/10 behind. As we keep coming back to him, as he seems to be the only one within the DRS zone of the driver ahead.
Yeah, seems to be the only one on track, actually close to the driver in front. But still, I'm very surprised that King David is managing to keep him behind 4-lap fresher tires Pyro has, and if he does make this move, he could be looking at a potential P2 finish here. And I think it would be wise for King David not to fight with Pyro too much. Maybe if Pyro is the faster driver, he can just let him through, follow him around, and both of them could end up on the podium. Or it might be in his best interest to try and hold on. There's only, what, like 2 more laps left? Maybe he can pull it off and stick it out for that P2 finish.
P-Shadow, meanwhile, on the other hand, completely enjoying this battle between Pyro and King
Rolla
David.
and Ella.
As we see that Rolla and Ella, as Ella has spun out, as those 23-lap-old hards finally come back to bite him. We warned him countless times that these tires will not last you towards the end of the race. And will he come into the pits? Yes, he does. These hard tires will not do. With only 2 laps to go, unfortunately, he had to pit at the worst possible time. It's unfortunate to see, however, it would have been something else to see those tires do 26 laps around here.
Yeah, there's just no way. Surely there'd be at like 100% wear if he tried to do that. That's asking too much of the hard compounds. But yeah, soft tires in the same boat as Jack now, as Jack does get the fastest lap, which is to be expected, being at the back on fresh softs.
As Pyro right towards the back end of King David, managing to stick with him through the Ascari chicane. Pyro, obviously, with only a few laps left to go, is really pushing to get this move done, possibly saving his ERS for this final lap as well.
Yeah, should be one of the last chances here down the straight. He'll be praying for a better exit than King David, which he looks to have gotten. He's going to turn on the ERS. Both drivers will be draining the battery. Pyro trying to make a move down the inside maybe, but
with a flashing ERS.
We have another yellow flag, and that is for
Jack again.
Another Aston Martin. Jack is having a horror show out there. But yeah, Pyro not able to make any indents on King David at the moment, so it looks like King David might just be able to stick it out and hold on to that position. Should put him up in P2 with P-Shadow's penalty. But other than that, yeah.
All right.
Robin gets a 3-second penalty as well.
As Robin now sits down with a 3-second time penalty. Pyro coming across the second leftmost right now, coming to the final DRS zone. If there's any place left to make a move, it is here with DRS wide open, chasing down King David. It does not seem like he has enough speed or ERS to make the position, as P-Shadow gets another penalty, pushing him to 8 seconds. And as we come to, but forget all of that for now, a person that we haven't talked about at all, well, not much, who however has driven a fantastic race. It is going to be Smatters coming across the line. He wins here at Monza, coming in P1. Fantastic win from Smatters. Now followed by P-Shadow, who loses the car, but has an 8-second penalty. King David, Pyro both getting pushed into P2 and P3. Jackalacko coming into P4. A fantastic result for both the Alfa Romeos. Easy Little Bot coming in, slitting in at P6. Rolla coming in at P7. However, will his position get taken up by Caesar? It does. So we have the 2 Aston Martins and the 2 Haas drivers finishing side by side with each other. Robin and Oswaldo finish up next.
I think Robin lost it, maybe? No. He had a penalty. My bad.
Regardless, we see over here, it has been a fantastic race. A big congratulations to Smatters as well. He has driven a fantastic race throughout this entire session. So great performance from him. As we look across the line, as Font and Jack, unfortunately, are the last 2 people left to cross the line. Font, unfortunately, did not have a great race. Jack just seemed to have a series of tragedies after tragedies. And unfortunately, that was the end of the race. So once again, everyone, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll just check up with the final race results. Bloodwave, your final thoughts on this race?
Yeah, pretty impressive. It was definitely fun to watch. They kept it clean, is what I'll say. These drivers.
Yeah, no safety car throughout the entire race.
That's impressive. We saw a lot of spins, but yeah, not enough carnage to cause for a safety car, I guess. That's pretty cool. Definitely was not expecting that from Tier 2. These guys, they did amazing out there. That was great racing, save for a few moments, but yeah, other than that, everybody seemed to be pretty clean for most of the race.
And ladies and gentlemen, here we are with your race winner, Smatters. He is now with 25 points to his name. King David, your championship leader, coming in P2. Pyro finishing in P3. The other Alfa Romeo in Jacko Lacko finishing in P4. Shadow with the McLaren finishing P5. Both the Haas's with Easy Level Bot and Caesar finishing in P6 and P7. Rala finishing in P8 with the AlphaTauri. The Ferrari of Oswaldo Romeo finishing in P9 and EXE Robin finishing in P10. Right. And ladies and gentlemen, that will be all from Tier 2 here at Monza. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It has been a fantastic race here. Great clean racing for the most part. I would once again like to thank my professional analyst, Bloodway, for joining me here today.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, anytime, man.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. And we will hopefully see you next time. Most likely at... I'm not too sure what the next track.
Abu Dhabi, I think, right? It's Abu Dhabi. Yeah, it is.
Abu Dhabi? Right. Well, we will see you all at Abu Dhabi at on Wednesday. On Thursday, I believe.
Thursday, yes.
So, yeah, that is all we have from us here today. We wish you all a wonderful day, and that is all.